And good morning and welcome to another live. Really sorry I haven't done many lives this year so far, but as people know, I had open heart surgery on the 11th of March to repair a valve. Um, First things first, I really need your help. I need to get a certain amount of subscribers on my channel, YouTube channel, to get some money from YouTube, from advertising. So if you could hit that subscribe button and select all notifications, that way when I do a live, it'll automatically let you know. It's really important that I get that subscriber level up. Um, I have a couple of clips this morning. The first one I come across was through a current affair, and I was after I watched it, I thought this is just typical of the NDIS and their disconnect with the disability community and the health repercussions that people go through because they're inept at their jobs. They really are. What's happened to this first bloke in our first video is it's just typical of the NDIS. Their stuff ups, their incompetence, and I've had a gut full of it. And I just wish the IAC, the Independent Advisory Council, would pull their finger out and do their damn jobs on getting the NDIA to do the jobs properly. It's gone past a joke years ago. It's just ridiculous that we're harping on about the same thing all the damn time. So if you could just run that first clip, please, Chris. I'll just keep talking till it comes on, but I'm just fed up with this crap.
He was told he'd never walk again. Life, confined to a wheelchair, was not a prognosis he was.
It stopped.
No, it's not adding it to the stage.
Was playing, but here we go. Sorry, everyone.
He was told he'd never walk again. Life, confined to a wheelchair, was not a prognosis he was willing to accept. Well, look at him now.
Need a chest. Need a chest. Good. I'm coming off.
You're coming up.
You're taking the steps.
The doctor came in and said to me, it's unlikely you'll walk again. Your entire spine is chopped. Obviously that was, kicking the guts and devastating.
Gary and Jen's home is a place of laughter and kindness.
I'm making a cuppa. Would you like
please.
something?
Yes,
cuppa.
please. Coffee, please.
There's no complaining.
What frustrates it that you can't do?
Gardening. We've got the little pot around the back there, which is the garden, the garden, just general looking up, mowing the lawn. Now, if I could mow the lawn, I'd be like,
what you wouldn't give.
God, what I would give to be able to mow the lawn.
Just determination.
So, but it hasn't been long and you've come a bloody long way.
I try to, I don't know.
I reckon you
just
have.
do what I do.
Gary has come a long way. He's a man who loves the outdoors, boating and bushwalks, cycling, and of course, time with his children and grandchildren. But on February 25, 2023, everything changed. He was at his parents', helping out in the garden, trimming branches.
So just helping him, standing on a wall, not very high, it's only 2 meters high, just trimming down the bits and pieces. And then when I went to get down, instead of going one way, I went the other. And then over the side, did a little bit of a fall, half pike trip, whatever you want to call it. Landed on the medium strip.
Was there a moment, Gary, when you thought, I've done something really bad here?
I heard the crack. I knew there was an enormous crack, but I didn't actually know what was going on.
Gary had severed his spinal cord, a complete paraplegic, in hospital for 6 months. When he went home, it was to a much different life.
And Jen, this is your husband. This is the man you love. It's still Gary, but it's a different Gary, isn't it?
Honestly, it's a shock, such a shock to the point that just didn't anything seem real. That whole 6 months, to see Gaz incapacitated in that way, and scared, and can't even sit up to give you a proper hug and a squeeze.
With Jen by his side, Gary set about finding a way to walk, and that's when he wheeled in to RoboFit in Sydney South.
How you doing? Nice to see you again.
See you again.
Here, he trains with Geordie and the RoboFit exoskeleton.
So as I bend and flex my bicep, the robot's responding to that. And then as I straighten my arm, the robot's responding to that as well.
So
Yeah.
you're controlling the robot. The
Yep.
robot isn't controlling
No,
you.
yeah, exactly.
Electrodes are
Yeah, the one we were looking at the other day was
They
the,
swapped it over. I think they might have removed it for some reason.
yeah,
Swapped it over with the other one.
just keep going with this one anyway.
placed on the skin to pick up the messages Gary's brain is sending his muscles. Then the robot helps him complete the movement. At first, it's on a treadmill.
Yep, just focus on the flexion.
Watching on is truly remarkable.
It's a bit of a workout though, isn't it?
It's a great workout. Get the cardio as well.
Exactly.
So makes the evening beer even better when I get home. But-
You've deserved it. You've deserved
Yeah,
it.
Then, little by little,
Drive knee to chest. Go. Keep pressure in that 1 foot.
he's walking on solid ground. RoboFit is the life's work of exercise scientist Marianne and her husband Dan.
He's got an incredible mindset, doesn't he?
He does. And it's one of those things you need to have.
Dan, also in a chair after an accident in 2010.
This is opportunity and hope and purpose and,
Yep.
and all those positive things that we all need, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. My personal motto, never say never. I was told by the doctors back then when I was in hospital, I'll never move my neck down again. And, I'm standing on weight bearing, I can walk.
Dan is nothing short of inspiration. After months of training in secret, 8 years ago, he surprised his bride, Marianne, standing for their first dance at their wedding. Now, it's Gary's turn to do what he was told was impossible.
What's the goal here? What's the dream?
Well, at the end of the day, I accept that I'll be in this little puppy forever. This thing won't be going away. I would love to be able to wake up in the morning, walk down the stairs and
Make me a cup of tea in the morning.
make a cup of tea.
With Jen by his side,
She's a good woman, Jen,
Oh,
isn't she?
Yes, yes.
Sometimes
She's a good woman.
I'm on my best behaviour today.
Gary's got his eyes
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, Ron. We had that clip yesterday in my YouTube folder, and it's been removed by YouTube or Current Affair. The story I was referring to was about a bloke called Adam, who was an amputee and had personal care issues. And with the NDIS, he can't get the funding for a new leg because his old prosthetic leg is no longer doing its job, and his personal care items he's having to reuse. Yeah, it's frustrating when you see, and I'll be talking to Adam next week about this, but I just wanted to show everyone the video, but it's actually been taken down. But it's frustrating that people have to reuse personal care items. It can lead to other infections and cause other diseases, and it's just not appropriate. It's actually, in my opinion, abuse from the NDIS that Adam's got to go through this. He shouldn't have to. they just won't pay the invoices, and it's just incompetence for Adam with the NDIS and not being able to get a new prosthetic leg. That's his mobility. Is like giving someone a wheelchair and then removing the wheels. It's no different. They're no longer mobile. They're no longer able to get out and join the community and its activities. It's just typical of the NDIS, and this ongoing crap has got to stop. And like I said before, the IAC, all you members, either piss off and resign or do your damn job. It's not hard. This has got to stop. Bloody IAC. The trouble with the IAC is that they're appointed by the minister. And we all know that when people are in political power, they appoint people who have their points of view and people they can control. And that's what's going on with the IAC. They're being controlled. And I've had a gut full of it. They shouldn't be appointed. They should be elected representatives from the disability community and the NDIS participants, people with disabilities, should be electing them because they're representing the entire disability community. But they're too caught up in the red tape. And they're not, as far as I now know, the IAC members aren't allowed to talk to anyone in the community. And that's not what a representative does. They actually listen to the people they represent, then pass that information on to the government. So Wishworth, get your ass into gear. Get rid of the IAC members. They're useless. They truly are. I've got documented evidence on their incompetence. So let's get rid of them. Let's have the IAC members elected by people with disabilities. That way we can get true independent representatives. The Independent Advisory Council, well, they're not independent. They're appointed. So, and I've had a gut full of them. They're useless. They truly are useless. But I'll be interviewing Adam hopefully next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And we can go through and he can tell everyone what he's going through and the impact it's having on his quality of life. It's just outrageous. But we'll move on to the next clip. And this one I found quite interesting. Can you just play that second clip, please?
I leave here in great trepidation of what will happen to the NDIS as the parent of a participant who's someone who actually needs this scheme to be sustainable, because when I'm no longer around, when his father is no longer around, my son will need lifelong supports. He has a significant, permanent, lifelong disability. And so I need it to be sustainable. And I am frightened beyond words that when I leave this place, that no one will care, that people will not care, because if the NDIS is not, you are not part of it, it's just something that's overblown. It's just something that's costing too much money. But if you or a loved one are relying on it to have a quality of life, this is one of the most important issues you and your family face. And so I had my son's plan meeting a couple of months ago. It took us over 3 weeks to get the new plan. His plan was due to expire when I sent a message to someone at the agency, hey, his plan expires tomorrow. I still haven't got the new one. What happens? And then it miraculously arrived that afternoon in the new PACE system. It arrived with a cut. So for everyone playing along at home, Just know that doesn't matter if you're the Joint Standing Committee chair of the Joint Standing Committee on the NDIS. It doesn't matter if you're the Shadow Assistant Minister for the NDIS. It doesn't matter if you've been an advocate for your son for in excess of 13 years, an advocate in the space of children with profound autism. It doesn't matter how well you know the scheme and understand the scheme. Participants who need support, participants with permanent and significant and lifelong disabilities are having their supports cut.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done. And
Adam has had a prosthetic leg for more than a decade. He needs a new one. But to get it, the NDIS is asking him to prove his disability. As Adam puts it, you can't get more proof.
That was the clip we were after the first time. Anyway, the second clip we showed was from a minister who has a child with a significant disability, and she's scared of what's going to happen to the NDIS, whether it's sustainable. Well, I can tell you, if senior members of the IAC and the NDIS, weren't rotting the system, in my opinion, and the government actually cracked down on all the frauds, then we would save a little bit of money. But what the politicians and the general community forget all the time is that up until the NDIS came in, people with disabilities, whether they were, severe or moderate, relied on family to help them out financially. And if they couldn't afford it, then they went without. It's as simple as that. They went without mobility. They went without being able to access the community. Access issues weren't an item until the early 90s, until the Australian standards come in. Now, the government's come in and when they brought in the NDIS and said, if you have a disability, we'll help you, we'll provide the supports that you need to be mobile, to get back into the community and join in its activities. So they did a trial and they had certain areas that they trialled. Now, my opinion on this was that the trial period was nowhere near long enough and the trial areas were not broad enough, and it was rushed out by the government. Now, I like the NDIS. I've done more in the last 12 months than I have in the last 40 years, since 1989. And that's all because of the NDIS, and I get the supports that I need. I have multiple disabilities and complex needs, and I'm able to speak up and advocate and, represent myself quite well, but other people can't for whatever reason. Now, where I think the government's fallen over when they brought out the NDIS, like I said, they truly did not really understand what people with disabilities need, and they usually went without. Now the government comes in and said we'll provide the supports and the IT, the adaptive technology you need, and it's gone from zero to $44 billion a year. It's a lot of money, but the overwhelming majority of people on the NDIS are getting it for what they need, nothing more. That money we get for our funding doesn't come into our back pockets. It doesn't come into our bank accounts. It's held by the NDIS. And I've had to explain that to people who don't have a disability in the general community. So we don't have access to that money. We just provide invoices. and reports from OTs and physiotherapists. So, we need to make it sustainable. But how do we do that? How do we pull in the costs when people are using it correctly and appropriately? Now, there's everyday items that's not funded. And I know there's different paid organisations that will help you be creative and get around it. But not everyone can afford to do that or want to do that because it's wrong. These organisations need to be stopped. And they're not hard to find. They truly aren't. So, don't criticise people with disabilities on the NDIS. We're using the funding for what it's needed for. And there are a lot of people out there too, who aren't getting the funding or have had their funding cut by up to 80%. Now, I spoke before about a young bloke who was cerebral palsy, and his parents wanted to get a device that would weigh him when they put him in the hoist to get him out of bed. So the NDIS took an opportunity to do a plan review without them knowing. They cut his funding by $80,000. He was going out and getting into the community 24 hours a week, which gave his parents respite. 24 hours a week. That was cut back to less than 6. And that's just an example of the NDIS just walking and cutting funding, trying to save money because there's an election coming up. Ridiculous. And we're all worried about what's going to happen with the NDIS in the future. So it's not just that menace who was talking a few minutes ago. It's all of us. But I'll just get Chris to play that video with Adam, if you don't mind, please, Chris.
Proof, then his amputated leg.
The fact of the matter is, I am.
You're disabled and it's obvious.
It's pretty obvious. It doesn't get much more obvious than having an amputation.
You'd think the proof was in the prosthetic, but not if you're the NDIA.
And I can't reason with them. I can't get a response from them. I shouldn't have to reprove to you for a third time that I'm disabled.
Adam Cupic's life right now is the sad reality of the NDIS in 2025. Boiling water to sterilise and reuse single-use catheters because invoices are yet to be approved.
I have to worry about whether I open a new catheter or not, or whether I can still continue to sterilise one that I've used 15 times before. It's terrifying me, to be honest.
It's people like Adam out in Melbourne's northwestern suburbs that live every day worse off after the amendment of the National Disability Insurance Scheme in October last year.
But we've got to eliminate expenditure which basically is not delivering any return to participants.
There's not even enough money for prosthetic leg maintenance in this new plan. There's times where I take my leg off and it's just the bottom of my stump is just blood.
The National Disability Insurance Scheme, or NDIS, is what funds and supports people with disabilities, while the agency, the NDIA, manages that funding and decides who's eligible for what. Since the NDIS changes came into effect, Adam's plan was slashed by more than $30,000.
So your total package used to be about $70,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now what do you want?
$30,135.68.
Can that even get you anything you need?
It's not even enough for a new prosthetic leg. They cut the plan off right in the middle of it and didn't give me the grace period of at least finishing the current plan that I'm on, and replaced it with one that was completely inadequate.
Disability Advocacy Australia CEO Elle Gibbs.
These are not fancy things, as in Adam's case with catheters, for example, so he can go to the toilet. People are finding that they're really struggling to get the supports that they need and to have kind of certainty about that so that things don't run out after 3 months or 6 months.
For 6 months, Adam's been on the phone, sending emails, dealing with Hayley, Beck, Joel, Amy, Lily. You name it, he's spoken to them.
So what was the last conversation you had with them like? How did that go?
The last conversation I had with them was trying to ask them to acknowledge an invoice to approve catheters.
So you're on the phone fighting for a company to get paid?
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Embarrassed, humiliated, stressed. Adam says his mental health is just hanging on.
It's not like I haven't told them.
At 18, Adam joined the army. Now at 47, he works in the online startup space and spends his time with partner Fiona and support dog Caesar. He even plays ice hockey. But in the past 6 months, Adam's been hospitalised twice for ill mental health.
I don't think they have any idea of what they've done to me.
He lost his leg more than a decade ago and says for 3 years the NDIS did exactly what it set out to do, change his life for the better.
I actually wrote a handwritten letter to the Minister of the NDIS and thanked Bill Shorten for the program. It's changed my life for the better. It's not the NDIS it used to be.
That's why he wants to see an overhaul of a different kind.
Hire me. Let me help you fix the problem, basically.
Adam wants...
Yeah, I have Adam coming on next week to talk about these issues, but I just want to touch on a couple of things. He wrote to Bill Shorten thanking him for the NDIS, when it was working for him. I wonder if Bill Shorten acknowledged that thank you, because every time I've tried to contact him last year, he's just fobbed me off to the NDIA. The ones I was complaining about, the ones that I thought that needed to be overhauled. He was talking about his mental health. I know exactly where he's coming from. I've been through it. I suffer with depression because my disabilities got the better of me. But not to get personal care items that help you go to the toilet, you got to be kidding. How incompetent is the NDIA? Truly incompetent. If he keeps getting infections, it'll affect the functions of his kidneys. I mean, this is nothing more than abuse, systematic abuse by the NDIA on Adam. That's exactly what it is. And I can tell you there are thousands of other people in the same boat who've had their funding cut without any notice, have had plan reviews without any notice. I think I spoke about it before when they were just ringing up and asking a participant, can we ask you a quick question? And they foolishly said, yeah. And that was their plan review. And they've lost half their funding. So they're basically doing the robocalls to people with disabilities. Now, what happens if they get somebody with a brain injury or cognitive impairment and they don't know it's a plan review and they just do it over the phone without any support? That's abuse. And I've had a gut full of it. You know, the IAC are there meant to give advice to the minister and the NDIA board. And I've got their minutes of their meetings going back 5 years. And there's bugger all in them. They get paid $1,000 a day to have their meetings. And there's bugger all in the minutes. They talk about guest speakers, but they don't talk about unless, you know, what's on their agendas. Now, when I first tried to get the minutes, I went to the website and I couldn't find them. So I asked somebody for assistance in South Australia. They couldn't find it. So, with the help of a support worker, I asked for a copy of the minutes to the IAC Secretariat. And I was told no. So I went to the OAIC, the Office of the Australian Information Commission, to get access to public minutes that are made public once they're accepted to be true and correct. They're public documents. And I asked them for a copy of the meetings on their own and in a Word format so I could read them, because, yeah, PDF and Adobe through a MacBook aren't accessible. So what did I get? I've got all the minutes and the agendas for the last 5 years scanned into one damn document and saved as a PDF. And this is from the IAC. How smart are these people? When you're telling you're blind and you need an accessible format, they can't even do that, let alone advise the bloody minister and the NDIA board. 500 pages were scanned into one document. Now, I'm not sure if they did it deliberately to make it hard for me, or they did it because they're a smart ass to get back at me for requesting them. But I had to go through the Privacy Commissioner to get access to public documents, and some of it was redacted because it mentioned people that weren't on the committee, which is fair enough, you know, guest speakers. If the IAC can't do that, then what the hell are they going to be good for? Except for wasting time and taxpayers' money. Now, the chairperson of the IAC, she should know better. I've just had a gut full of it. It's just the same thing all the damn time. We keep repeating ourselves on the same issues and nothing ever improves. Nothing ever gets fixed. Well, I'd like to get onto the IAC, and I can tell you now, they wouldn't stop me talking to the public or trying to help people out, because I've contacted everyone on the IAC and I did not get one damn response, and they're our representatives. Now we're going to talk to Adam about what he's going through and what he'd like to see change. and it's going to be interesting. So please tune in next Wednesday at 10 a.m. to watch that interview with Adam. You've seen what he's gone through in that a current affair interview. So please tune in next week to watch that interview. It's going to be really good. Well, that's my rant for the week, so we might just leave it there. I'll just get you to end that stream. Thanks for everyone watching. Appreciate it.